Hey everybody, it's Rachich. Today the patch notes for the 3.25 league in Exile were released, which means the hype season has begun. Yikes, and I'm not alone this time. This person needs no introduction, as you all probably know him. Subtractem, what's up mate? I'm very glad to see you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. Good to be here, man.
First I want to share how I came to know about you and why I wanted to make this video with you. I've known about you for a long time, since I've been playing POE for a while now, and I especially noticed your videos with league starters and how detailed you develop and explain them. For example, your fire trap build was really good and even a bit too strong in some aspects. I liked it a lot personally. Today we will talk about what needs to be done to not fuck up at the league start. So, Sub, in your opinion, what preparations for the league start are the most important and necessary before the servers go live? I mean, software, applications, snacks, water, hydration, or whatever else.
Yeah, so first thing that I would say is just set realistic expectations for your skill level, your experience level. Don't over stress or overhype anything. Do it in a realistic, healthy way for what fits your lifestyle. You know, you see people, it's okay if you want to take a week off vacation for league start and all that, but don't stress out about it. It's just league start. Leagues last 3 to 4 months. Just take it a little bit easy.
A lot of time, yeah, I agree with you. But what about softwares? Like, I mean, something like Awakened POE trade for a check price or whatever. I think if you haven't run through the campaign hundreds of times before, it's better to prepare some websites in advance with all the additional quests that reward passive skill points. Also, we will link all the useful websites in the description. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you already named the #1 software that I recommend is Awakened POE Trade. It's the gold standard. You use it for price checking. It has a built-in overlay, has built-in logout, hideout macros, all that type of stuff. Absolutely mandatory in my opinion for playing the game. Next up, if you're going to be following a build guide, you know, if you're watching this video and you're listening to us right now, you probably want to follow a build guide, and you want to look up the main software that we use is Path of Building, the community fork specifically. That's the one that's maintained. That it's a pretty complex piece of software, but it is really just how you import builds and how you look at them. Then after that, I would recommend POEwiki.net. It is the gold standard for wikis. Do not use the fandom one. That is old and busted and is not maintained. And I think that's like the main things that I would say is the core of what you absolutely need. On top of that, if you want to get a little bit fancier, for crafting, pathofexile.com. For trading, I really like POE Exchange. That is the new trading website that is kind of the spiritual successor to old POE Stack. And then if you're a little fancy pants little boy, you can go to POEDB, and it's basically a download of the actual game files, so you can get into the real nitty gritty and see the actual damage numbers of monsters and calculate exactly down to the decimal how much armor you need to not die to that one hit.
Yeah, about POEWiki and POEDB, I think these two websites is my favorite. And about passive building, I guess now we can't play the game without this application. Like it's not real. So yeah, I guess you just said about all the mandatory softwares, applications, and else, because you can use like hundreds of them, I mean, or dozens of them, but you just don't need it. You should be relaxed and just play the game you like. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next question is, what do you think about doing test runs before the league start to check maybe your build, or should we blindly trust the build if it's made by a really content creator with a good reputation?
No matter what, I think you should, if you have the time, test a build. You mentioned my fire trap build. It is, to me, like it is my favorite league starter I've ever played.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love it, right? I love it. But not everyone loves it. It was popular, but a lot of people league started it and they didn't like the playstyle. And that is okay. That's just what happens. There are certain requirements to certain builds. People love Bone Shatter. Bone Shatter is strong. It is good, but it is not objectively good for all players. There are things that just don't fit your taste. And it is really important to, if you have the time, especially if you have characters in Standard League that you can just respec, really quickly throw together the build with your early game budget and make sure it feels how you like it to feel.
The main advice is to test something. If you want to test something, just to test something you really like the playstyle. Like if you don't like playing minion builds, what the fuck, why are you need to test it before 7 days before the league starts? Or if you like melee builds, you can test Bone Charter, but never look at someone's build if it's only strong but you don't like the playstyle.
Yeah, I mean you don't know what you're gonna like until you try it. Try everything twice, you never know. But like for me, I think my personal experience is Bama is good. Like I would just say it is objectively a very good build. I hated playing it personally. I greatly disliked it. But I said this is a good build, but it's not for me, and that's just the way.
Yeah. Playstyle is number one, what you should prioritize when you just test someone's builds. Yeah, I agree with you. Next question is, what do you think about a starter build, but in terms of whether it should align with your late game expectations? I mean, personally, I often start with something fast and comfortable to at least cheaply complete the atlas. I mean, to reach red maps, earn some currency, and then build something more interesting, powerful, or just I like it more. But most players look too far ahead when considering a league starter build, because switching builds requires quite a bit of experience to craft new items or not overpay on trade. So what is your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing where it just comes with experience, knowing how to navigate changing builds and what goes into it. Like, for a beginner, they're going to be generally rather scared of crafting. And I can look at an item generally with my experience and say, I can probably put this together for not too much. Whereas an inexperienced player is just going to go to the trade website and just try to buy nearly the exact same item, and the price is just going to be much higher because someone else crafted it. Yeah. And that's just a thing you got to watch out for. If someone says, hey, this is X price, it's probably going to cost more for you if you're a beginner and you don't know what you're doing. And that's okay.
Yeah, or it's better to craft by yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it usually is better it's almost always better to craft for yourself.
Only you maybe shouldn't do it when the craft is really expensive, or it's like gambling crafts. There are a lot of gambling crafts with the synthesis mods, but at the league start you can craft almost every item and it will be cheaper than on trade, because in first 7 days trade prices can be super overhyped.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my counter to that would be you can always find really good deals. That's another skill in the game. That's the beauty of Path of Exile, is there are so many different unique skills that you can have. Like even social, I don't want to say manipulation, but the ability to network with people and have share knowledge, share items, all of that. Just having a social safety net and being able to share with people and anything like that can greatly accelerate your progression in the game, your skills in the game, sharing crafting knowledge, sharing old items, all that. That's like a soft skill that does progress your character and your knowledge of the game. Conversely to, hey, maybe I'm just really good at studying POE.ninja, which is another website where you can look at people's builds. Maybe you're really good at just accruing knowledge and understanding. Like you can look at items like, oh, I can craft for profit with these items. I can see the trends within the meta of certain builds on POE Ninja. Like there are so many different, very soft skills that that don't really directly translate to, hey, the mechanics of just clicking maps and doing all that. I think this is a great idea for a video to share with people right now and show you all the information and this knowledge and our experience. But I also want to make sure that we step back for a moment and get across the fact that it is still just a video game. Don't stress yourself out on all of these different aspects that are in the game.
Next question is kind of fun for me, but maybe it's kind of fun at all. But excluding content creators who try to level up as quickly as possible at the league start, what do you think? Is it worth sleeping very little in the first 2 or 3 days? I mean, or even not sleep at all? Or it's better to get enough rest and start fresh, I mean, in the next morning and farm some currency? Because usually when the league starts, before the league starts, I thought like, should I not sleep 2 days like someone's doing, or should I get rest and just to start from the morning? So what do you think? What is your opinion? What do you prefer?
I mean, for me personally, I go harder than I would recommend other people to do. This is a do as I say, not as I do type of situation. It is. I can't speak for you, right? I can't speak for other people and how they should play a game. But, you know, since the game is my job and et cetera, I have a whole different perspective on that.
Your content creator is like your hype train, so it energizes you, like charges you, and you know, like the people like when you just fast, and you get this currency and you just at the top of the mountain. So yeah, for the content creators, it's very important.
Yep. But for regular people, I don't think it's worth ruining your whole schedule for it. You know, before I did content creation, yeah,
guys, sleep. Please, sleep, guys.
yeah, of course, sleep. Like, I used to definitely sacrifice the quality of my work, and I would play leagues on League Start more than I should have. I would sit there and like, oh, I should be working, but hey, I'm booting up Path of Exile, and I'm sure a lot of people understand that. And, you know, that is a thing that sometimes I regret doing more than I should have. You know, you're just going to be better. You're going to be happier in general if you just still, you know, go for your run, have a healthy breakfast, all that. And then we sit down at the computer to play the game, or your console as well. When you play the game, you're going to be, it's going to feel better, right? You know, if you wait a little bit of delayed pleasure, you'll have more fun doing it instead of just grinding like crazy. It is cool shooting for those really big goals. Like, hey, I want to get that week 1 Mage Blood. It is cool pushing for that. But after you've done it a few times, I don't know, for at least myself personally, it's not as rewarding to reach those end goals right away.
And it's gonna be bad for your health. Like, yeah, it's really hard to not sleep 2 or 3 days. It sucks. I can say it. But how do you prioritize things at the start of the league aside from the unknown new league mechanics? What is more important to you initially? Like, I mean, completing the atlas as quickly as possible, earning currency to invest in your build, or exploring the unknown league mechanics and trying to figure them out and get some profit. Because the last few leagues I used to start with some, you know, quick builds without any uniques, because to my mind it's very important to choose starter build that doesn't require any specific uniques, because they can be damn expensive at the league start. I prefer farming something like familiar, because I don't play for 20 hours straight, like just a few hours a day, and I try to focus on something I understand well. And in recent leagues I have really enjoyed running the Sanctum mechanics. I farmed over 1,000 of them, I guess now. I farmed several mirrors just from that mechanic, and I found this mechanic very stable and, you know, straightforward at the moment if you simply run it a few times. But what do you prioritize actually?
It really varies on the league, and particularly how much I'm enjoying the league mechanic. So league like this one, where I found the league mechanic very unpleasant, I ended up just doing my regular thing. So I kind of have fallback strategies. For myself, I'll usually go more into expedition traditionally. And yeah, I mean, for me, I've practiced League Start enough. I have builds that I am very comfortable with. I usually kill Exarch and Eater. I'll go a little bit slow as well for me. Yeah. And I'll usually kill Exarch and Eater within 15 hours of League Start.
It's good. It's not slow. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably like average for a content creator, and, you know, fast for a regular player. But, you know, that's where I'm at right now. And yeah, I mean, my regular League Start, I'll set up Expedition, unlock my Atlas, and I usually aim to make about 200 Divines in the first week. Not insane for a content creator, but I think that's a really good baseline, which then can kind of springboard the rest of my league. And yeah, from there, after the first week, then I am looking more into just exploring what else is out there, what content I can make with the new discoveries in the game. But, you know, it really depends on the league and how much I like it. You know, you mentioned Sanctum. Sanctum is my favorite league of all time. And during Sanctum League...
Mine too.
Yeah, during Sanctum League, I went very, very hard in Sanctum. You know, whereas this league, they didn't really have that. And, you know, corpse crafting was the worst thing ever. And, you know, the FOMO from T17s and seeing how it ruined the economy.
Actually, you mentioned Expedition, but what Expedition your advice to farm at the league start? I mean, should it be Rock or should it be Tujen? What do you prefer?
So Rog is good if you know what you're doing and you have patience. Rog can absolutely make some great items, and this league I made 2 very, very good items for my league starter with Rog. I primarily use him to craft for myself. It's a great way to just get spell suppression gear and all your res and all that taken care of very, very quickly. You absolutely can craft for a lot of profit with Rog, but you need quite a bit of patience. And yeah, just focus on that, primarily focusing on Tujen. Like I said, I think basically doing just Expedition this league. I made about 200 divines in the first week, which is solid, I think.
Maybe the most easiest currency, like crafting something with rock or just farm flat currency from Tujen. But I mean, when we were talking about first 2 days at the league, so it can be hard to sell items from rock. I mean, you can craft items for your build, but if you just reach red maps like in first 1 or 2 days, it can be very hard to sell these items. So first 2 days it's better to farm Tujen and then to swap into rock, you know. But like whatever, it's better to choose what do you like. If you like crafting in pathofexile and crafting for profit, because I have like dozens of videos about crafting for profit, and rock is very easy. Like it's not that hard, because people usually think if they have no like $5,000 in POE, crafting is very hard, but it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I would still do Raga the first 2 days. Like, I would say nothing is ever difficult to sell. You just got to know how to sell it. Right? It's selling is like going on a date. Like you're flipping through Tinder and you're trying to find someone, and you just got to advertise it properly. Like you in your head you can say, "Hey, it's actually worth more than this." But it's not, right? Like the buying power for what people have in the economy just matches how much they prioritize those items. And the fact that you made the best items earlier just means, yes, you have to lower, quote unquote, lower the price, but the price to exchange ratio for the buying power of the average player is just still going to be in your favor. So you just have to, you know, you lower the price from what you would think it is from like a previous economy, but those chaos orbs that you're getting are worth more because the divine is going to be worth less. So you just need to exchange that into earlier divines, right? That's the big thing for stuff, right? Because you can just
I definitely agree with you. Like everything you said is like mandatory for crafting, for economy. Like it's like economy lessons like for our viewers. But can you share your best and worst league starts, like some story that you remember? For me, the worst league start seems to happen almost every time because something magically prevents me from playing like in the first 3 days of the league. I have injured my knee, or my internet didn't work for no reason, or I kept getting kicked back in the queue. This time it's power issues, but how about you?
Yeah, I mean, worst league starts ever, it's hard to beat Ultimatum. I think anyone who played Ultimatum League, it is probably their worst league start ever. Because
it was the biggest queue, no?
It was the biggest queue of all time. That was streamer queue. So I mean, that was before I started streaming. That's when people, well, I was a streamer, but I was tiny. Certain people, they got pushed ahead of the queue, and you know, infamously, MP got, you know, he got put in the streamer queue and he was able to bypass it, and then he said life's not fair. And then they had a database migration issue, so they lost all, you know, everyone's character in the migration and everything. They had to roll back, so everyone lost like a couple hours of progress. That was Ultimatum League. In terms of best league start, it's really hard to say. I think the biggest thing is once you've practiced enough, it becomes, you know, randomness doesn't affect you as much. So I've actually been practicing my campaigns. I've actually had Havoc's, like one of Havoc's group's main coordinators as system player lost. He's been helping me a lot in chat, like really walking me through as a coach. And my campaign time is, I'm really close to 4 hours now for a campaign, which is not godlike.
I usually do like 4.5, so 4 hours is like better than me. But
I've gotten to I'm getting pretty close to 4 hours, and I think that 4 hour run I had some pretty big mistakes as well. It's a fairly standardized thing. There can be some randomness, like, oh, I'm just not getting T16 drops. You can get unlucky, but besides that, you can very consistently, I would say, if you're a practiced player, you know, roughly 5 to 8 hours after reaching maps, you can kill Exarch and Eater, you know, and you can sleep in the middle there, right? In the middle of day 2, you can have your full Atlas set up, basically ready to go. And, you know, the gigantic percentage of people are still going through the campaign. So as soon as they, you know, walk into the Karui shores and they're like, oh, what's in the trade website? I want to upgrade my gear. And you already have, you know, you're sitting there in your bazaar, you got a table with just gear all over the place. Hey, come on down. You know, it's Subtractem's Chaos Emporium. Come on down and we'll just, we'll trade you up. And then, you know, people will just start throwing money at your face and you can just go crazy and accelerate everything.
It always depends on the build you choose. Without knowing the patch notes, what would you choose? I mean, builds like a boss killer and focus on farming bosses, or builds, fast builds and farm maps, or do something between like all-rounder. So what do you prefer the mostly time?
I'm just a full generalist all-arounder. I like killing the bosses, and there is value in if you can like set it up properly so you can spam bosses and Ubers and you get those early uniques. There's value in that, but generally it falls off pretty quickly. We saw that particularly this league in Necropolis. Bossing as a pure focus just really hasn't been the best thing to do in the game in a while.
Yeah, it depends on the league, actually, always.
Really depends on the league. And I think that's risky, whereas a generalist map, particularly a mapping focused build, is going to just do better on average, and it's a much safer play. I always like a build that can do bosses because I like doing. Generally, I go for all my challenges with my league starter. Like this league, I even took my Frostblink, Fire Trap Elementalist, and I did all of the T17 boss challenges and all the Uber challenges and everything. And I like particularly a league starter that can do that stuff.
It's very smart, but if you finished, I have also some similar question, but about something else. Which builds for the start, I mean, you choose more often? Builds with higher damage but less survivability, or those with lower damage but better tankiness, excluding your fire trap build because it was like tanky and has a lot of damage, but what would you choose? Like damage or tankiness?
I mean, we haven't had to choose that in a while.
I mean, like when you choose Bone Shatter, I guess like you choose something between, but when you choose Detonate that, you choose like tankiness, not damage. I mean, we're not talking about last Necropolis league because a new Detonate that of Chain Reaction was overpowered, but most time when you pick Detonate that, you want not to die, and when you pick something like Lightning Arrow, you know that you will die, but you do it because of a lot of damage. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, more and more these days, I lean towards defense a lot of the time for just comfort. That's what a lot of people generally enjoy these days. And if it's a build I'm recommending to people, that's the meta, is something that's relatively defensive. People really, really hate dying. And with that said, just playing a regular old Lightning Arrow and blasting around. The thing is, even the Lightning Arrow builds that people are playing these days, they're not 6-portal little squish balls anymore. They actually put moderate defenses on things. You'll see a good number of them with lightning coils and fizz taken as wherever they can get it. I mean, we'll see what it's going to look like next patch with all the changes, but yeah, I mean, there's a spectrum, but really the meta builds that you see these days, what has changed a lot, particularly in the past year and a half, I would say, is you never go too far in one direction anymore. They're 100%. There's people that play full glass cannons, and there's people that just walk around doing 100k DPS and they don't die. But I would say most builds that people play are much more towards the middle of that balance. But I'm definitely, if I'm dying once a map, there's something wrong, and I need to figure it out. Yeah.
Actually, Sub, what do you think about last league meta? I mean, in Necropolis, I mean, the league start builds, and after 1 or 2 months, the meta. So I actually didn't like it because most players were playing like Lightning Arrow or a new Elemental Hit of Spectrum or like Bone Shatter and Detonate of Chain Reaction. But what do you think? What is your opinion about meta last time?
I mean, it is what it was. It's I think the big thing is that it was pushed by T17s and, all the farming that was done in there that pretty much warped the entire meta and what people were going for. And in fact, like my Soul Rend of the Spiral build, Catswell channeling Pathfinder, was specifically made just for T17s. Like I actually spent a good amount of time exploring different types of builds. I tried Dual Strike of Ambidexterity. I think I tried an Archmage something or other. And I ended up going with a Poison Pathfinder entirely. Like it had 100% fizz taken as. It had something like, I don't know, 70k fizz max hit and crazy, crazy defenses. And that was kind of necessary to do the farming that you wanted to do in T17s. And so the big thing is they said they rebalanced T17s. That's why the meta was what it was. Is people wanted to play the builds that could do T17s very well and extract the money from them. Not necessarily builds that they thought were like the most fun thing that they wanted to play. And we have a big shakeup this league with all of the changes coming, and a lot of the old stuff got nerfed pretty darn hard. So yeah, it's going to be a very big shakeup. And I think what's going to determine what people play more than the patch note, more than like the skill changes, is how influential T17s are and what they feel like to farm, because that's going to dictate the builds that we see.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, meta last time it is what it is, but now if you could talk to Graniger Games, I mean, if you could change something for a league start in pathofexile, what would you change actually?
It's really a confluence of a lot of things right now, but like the economical pressure to overperform on league start and the efficiency that is now demonstrated by a larger and larger cohort of players is now like, it's putting this undue stress and like reducing the build diversity. Like, there is build diversity, I'm not like doom and glooming it, but necessarily as difficulty increases, fewer and fewer builds, it's math, right? It's just the fewer and fewer builds are going to be able to do it, and the builds have to get better. And there is something, you know, elegant and beautiful about that restriction, but it might be just like too accelerated. If it were somehow slowed down, if the difficulty scaling were a little bit less, if the hyper optimization of efficiency had less pressure on players, we might see a bit more exploration. Like I said in my video that I posted yesterday after watching the patch notes, I ended it by saying, hey, I'd really love to see people kind of get out of their comfort zone and not follow a build guide and just do something fun.
I agree with you.
But there were a couple comments, and I totally get it, of people saying like, hey, I tried that in the past and it was just really bad, and I ended up quitting the game.
Yeah, it was hard.
Right? It's hard, but I want people to do that. Like, I think if we can get there, I would like the game to go in the direction where that is possible. And I think POE 2 is going to be a great reset for that. But I think that would be one of the healthiest things for the game is if the, not a beginner player, but the average player that is a moderate veteran of the game could confidently throw something together and at least feel like they're not screwing over their league start. Because then
and that's how we actually
that's how we all started,
creators. Right? Yeah, it is. But I want to ask you about campaign. It can be really interesting question for, I mean, viewers, because about campaign. Would you rather have this ability to skip this campaign? I mean, 10x, because like me and you, we were running this campaign hundreds of times. So would you rather to skip it in just clicking one button? So I mean, when the league starts, you just completed the campaign one time, and then when you create another character, you can just click one button and you skip all the campaign. What is your opinion about this?
I think at this point in the game's lifespan, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that coming. I think, your first character should do the campaign for sure.
Yes.
What I would like to see, my idea is in the future for any alternate characters that you make, you go until Act 3. You could even do Act 4, you could do it after Malachi, but I think after doing your Ascendancy and Dominus, it might feel thematically better. You ascend, you kill Dominus, and then when you walk out into the aqueducts, you go straight to your hideout. You get an option, right? Maybe a pop-up, like, do you want to skip the campaign or not? Then you can go to your hideout and you can run de-leveled maps. So you can run like, tier -20 maps. And
like just in last epoch,
last epoch, does that with the monos. Exactly. And you can just kind of run maps and start the regular path. Like that additional, like, I think there's something beautiful about the first 45 to 60 minutes of going through the campaign and like, okay, I'm setting up my character, I'm doing the beach, I did my Ascendancy, I killed Azaro, but the next 7 acts feels like such a slog, and particularly the second half. Like after you kill Kitava the first time, you could even do after Kitava if you wanted to drag it out a little bit, but acts 6 through 10 really drag. Even if you're faster at it and it only takes you 2-ish hours to do them, it still feels like, just get me out of here, at least to me, and I think to a lot of players. And I think after Act 3, it would be really nice, and, feel free to scale that to whatever you prefer at, end of Act 1 or something. At least start in the campaign, and then, under-leveled maps, tier -20, and then just build up from there. And I think that would make a lot of people very happy.
Yeah, it will, definitely. Actually, I think we covered all the important things about league starters, about leveling. Maybe I forgot something really important. So if I did, please share something with players, maybe some advice or of your own experience, because you know this game very good. And yeah, tell them.
Yeah, I mean, the main theme that I've been kind of going back to this whole time is it's the game's only a sprint on League Start if you want it to be. There's value and fun in like trying to fight people at the top 1% of the economy and going hard like that. But yeah, I mean, I've played for quite a few years at this point, and more, I think you can get it to the point where the campaign or the League Start in general is comfortable and less stressful. Don't worry about that top 1% making their mage bloods.
Yeah.
You know, it's cool to do it at least one time, and I totally more props to if you want to push yourself to do that. But I also think there's a lot of value in just being like, hey, this is a 3 to 4 month league. And if you drag out the progression of your character and just working towards challenges and, you know, logging in for a couple hours here and there, after, you know, the first week you can go hard or whatever, but, you know, then just do it in something very, very sustainable. You know, unless you're really trying to get those alt arts in standard or anything, the currency disappears at the end of the league, and all you have left is the memories and, you know, maybe the extra pounds that you put on by sitting there eating Cheetos the whole time and not exercising. And, you know, maybe if you do that in a little bit more healthy and sustainable way, you will have more positive memories, and it's a more sustainable way that you can fit such a gigantic, you know, potentially time-intensive game into your life in a healthy way.
Yeah, it's really good advice. I think now it turns out we have really covered the most important topics, and it's really good advice right here. And I hope our viewers really learn something new, or maybe not new, but you agree with us. And we'll start the new Settlers of Kalguur League even better than the previous one. And I really thank you, Subtractem, for sharing your experience and opinion. If somehow you haven't heard for this guy, I will leave all the links in the description. And yeah, I'm waiting for you anytime. Really, thank you. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and I will hand over the final word to our friend Sub. Yeah, last word and wishes.
All right, get rich or die grinding.
Never skip gambling from the gazillion dollars. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye, I guess.